you understand?
Hey everybody, I'm Tony Jones, and welcome to the Tony Jones Show.
It's not enough. People are willing to take the risk. It's sort of a herd mentality, a lemming-like mentality. If you don't go with the flow, you're anti-American and therefore a suspect.
The Tony Jones Show, featuring punk, rockabilly, psychobilly, and Providence, Rhode Island's finest, starts right now.
He's a dangerous militia member, I hear. Oh, and there she blows.
This is going, and know your thoughts, and I can see the lies and the truth and the pain. I can recognize that this is just a game. We play in our minds because we are the same. I want, you want, what we can't have. We take, we steal, we make it real. Justify this eternally. I don't believe it can be anything real. I know, Romeo, you don't need to say it, you can just go. I know, Romeo, I don't need to ask, I'll just let it go. We are just addicted to the taste of our lips. Something comes alive when you trace down my hips. So dance, 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 dance with me. Tomorrow's gonna change and you will have to go, I know. It feels so right. We dance all night. Before a time, you are all mine. But I can recognize that this is goodbye. I do not want you to tell me why. Don't worry, I am not gonna die from the way I feel. I know, Romeo, you don't need to say it, you can just go. I know, Romeo, I don't need to ask, I'll just let it go. We are just addicted to the taste of our lips. Something comes alive when you trace down my hips. So dance, 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 dance with me. Tomorrow's gonna change and you will have to go, I know. I don't wanna stop dancing. This might be the last chance to feel a bit of romancing. Yeah.
Friends, the time for mediocrity in broadcasting is over. My name is Tony Jones, and you were tuned in to the Tony Jones Show, your destination for talk and rock. Online at TonyJones.org, on Facebook, Facebook.com/Tony Jones Show, and on the almighty Twitter at Tony Jones in RI. Thank you for tuning in and hanging out with me. With me, as always, is my occasional co-host, Mr. George Garner. George, good evening.
Good evening.
And, of course, DJ Psycho Eddie is here. He's queuing up for his program a little bit later this evening. If you're catching us live, we'll talk to him in a bit because Eddie and I are going to be at the Paranormal Conference next weekend, and we'll talk about that in just a bit. We do have to start off the program, unfortunately, on a sober note, and our condolences go out to our own Chuckles the Clown, the Gardner family, unfortunately losing their patriarch. Mrs. Gardner passed away the other day, and I just a real quick story, and then we're going to get into the fun part of the show. But, you know, I know this guy may be a little bit hard to believe, but I used to be a little bit of a wild man back in the day.
No.
And so for those of you who don't know, Chuckles and I go way back, you know, almost at the point of lifelong friends. And so here I was, a hulking, almost 7-foot teenage boy. And anytime I was doing the wrong thing, little petite Mrs. Gardner was more than happy to put her finger in my face and let me know I was doing the wrong thing.
It's good to have somebody like that around.
A sign of true integrity. You know, she didn't really care what I thought or what anybody else thought. If you were doing the wrong thing, she would let you know, and she would kindly try to steer you in the right direction. And, you know, it's going to be a big loss. And, of course, our condolences go out to the whole Gardner family. Chuckles will be back in action with us sooner rather than later. He kind of wants to stay busy and focus on, you know, the positive things, which we're going to do here on the Tony Jones Show today because, well, you guys may agree with me, the world is a freaking mess right now. So instead of getting into it here, instead of lamenting it, I think what we're going to try to do for the next hour is provide as much fun and rock and roll as possible for anybody listening in, and, of course, anybody listening in podcast form. So we got some great music on tap. George, I want to talk about something in just a little bit that will titillate your sci-fi fan sensibilities, because there is a mutant among us. I was coming home rather late last night. One almost flew down my throat. So we'll talk about that in a bit. Yes, I have
a flying mutant.
A flying mutant. And that'll be the tease. And this is legit. This is real. Also, I have fried dough-related news for you. Talk about keeping it light this week. We'll talk about fried dough in just a little bit. And, of course, we'll talk about next week's Ocean State Paranormal Convention. Our own DJ Psycho Eddie providing the sound, so we'll be there with free stuff. But, well, for difficult times, there's nothing better than a little Lee Fields. He's up next right here on the Tony Jones Show. This one, Stand By Your Side.
Come home, 'cause the loving you give is like a broken bone. But it's alright, I can stand
great Lee Fields right here on the Tony Jones Show, standing by your side, the name of that one. And I almost forgot to mention the first track we heard this week. Well, we heard a little Dust Ruffles here on the Tony Jones Show. Romeo, the name of that one. George Garner is here. DJ Psycho Eddie is here. And speaking of the aforementioned George Garner and DJ Psycho Eddie, they joined me, or I joined them, or any way you want to think about it, at the Providence Flea Market last week. And great reception at the Providence Flea. Great meeting all of you. And we were the featured nonprofit of the week. As I like to mention every once in a while here, you may be surprised, but doing what we're doing right here doesn't exactly pay the bills.
It doesn't, but it gratifies our gargantuan egos.
But it's a blast, and I get access to some good and some bad, but some music that, well, frankly, you're not going to hear anywhere else but here on the Tony Jones Show.
Well, put it this
and on
way:
RFA
we have an excuse to go all different places and have fun. People send us free music.
Right.
I
We meet
don't know.
chicks.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we can't do anything, but we meet them.
Well,
as long as they're not pointing and say, "Yes, officer, that's him."
As long as there's not a police lineup involved.
yeah. So I look at it this way: there's different ways to get paid.
That's true.
So now, never mind all this. Now, what about flying mutants?
Well, this is a very interesting story, and I am just a fountain of useless knowledge. And I have always thought that if I went on Jeopardy, I would just kill. We could probably fund our nonprofit here with my trip to Jeopardy, because I just know the stupidest, most ridiculous stuff, and this is one of them. So if you live in the East here, and I think it's all over the East Coast, there's a gypsy moth invasion.
Yeah,
that's stemming from a huge, and I think we talked about it on your show, a huge caterpillar invasion, to the point where quietly, late at night, you could actually hear
chewing caterpillars.
But a lot of people don't know that this sick man, and I'm not even going to try to say his name because it's a ridiculous French name. I can say Leopold. His middle name was Leopold. So in 1868, Mr. Leopold actually brought worms here and had experiments of gypsy moth inbreeding. And his goal was to develop silkworms to start a silkworm industry in Medford, Massachusetts.
Okay, the idea is okay, but still.
Well, as he's having these moths reproduce, a few of them got loose from his laboratory, which I'm assuming in 1869 was probably just his backyard or something.
Well, yeah, the story wouldn't be complete without something escaping from a laboratory. Really.
These gypsy, these inbreeding moths, well, caterpillars at the time, actually escaped. And that's how the gypsy moth was born, I guess, for lack of a better word.
So
and
basically,
that's how they mutated.
An invasive species situation.
Right. Yeah, it all started in Medford, Massachusetts, and now they are all over the East Coast. Starting, I guess they started spreading in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, and till this day, there's just a massive infestation. Of course, they're saying now there's going to be a massive infestation again next season.
Right.
But I want you to think of not only the fact that these things are mutants, but the fact that it's pretty dark where I live, and we have one porch light. And when I tell you, around this porch light the other night was probably a good 600 moths.
Oh, I was all right. In my neighborhood, I was going to, nowhere near 600. So I guess we got off light.
So I did what any good person would do, and I ran for it. But the door wasn't open, so I kind of ran into the door. And I opened my mouth, and a bunch of them flew down my throat. Now, I got to assume that I'm not the only person that has ingested gypsy moths this season.
Now, the first thing that's popping into my head is...
Now, before you go on, Ed, are you speaking culinarily? Or are you...
Well, I could speak of the protein content of the moth, but...
That's right. I went to the gym that day. Did I gain any calories by swallowing that gypsy moth?
It helps you to heal that a little bit quicker from all the protein. No, I'm thinking I'm keeping the lighter side in the back of my head. Had one of those gypsy moths had a little bit of radiation, we may have the newest superhero. Tony Jones is the gypsy moth.
Mothman.
The Mothman prophecy fulfilled right here in our studio. Yeah. That's good thinking. And even if
my body may be fatigued, but my brain is still sharp.
And even if it doesn't exactly come true for real, we could make it come true.
Well, Do you know anyone in the medical field? You get them in front of an X-ray machine for about
We
a
don't.
half
We don't
hour or
need a
so?
medical field. We need a large costume.
I currently don't have one on me, but I'm sure we could procure one.
We know a lot of people in the fetish scene, so there's probably
Exactly.
someone that already has one made
there's
up.
someone on this planet likes to dress up as a moth.
Now, it's also interesting to think that the larva of the gypsy moth is so small that it can be carried by the wind. So I've probably also ingested gypsy moth larva at some point this season, too. It probably was in the
I have
wind.
a feeling there's a fetish comic coming
So
after that one as well.
Well, no. Next time he coughs, he's gonna bring about the next
Gonna
generation.
fly right out. Well, we're going to get back to the music now. I forgot to mention that it's also Double Shot Week this week, so coming up for you some new music around these parts. We're going to hear two from Desk, starting off with, yes, I'm sure we've all dealt with this situation once or twice or multiple times throughout our dating lives. This track is called You're Hot, But You're a Problem. You heard it here first on The Tony Jones Show.
Pretty mama's got a lot to say now. She likes to talk. Her sexy mouth is faster than her brain explains. She's got to know just what it is about her, yeah. The obvious escapes her face in the head. I need a vaccine, yeah. You're hot, but you're a problem. I need a vaccine for you. You're hot, but you're a problem. Outbreak MGH, and you wonder why. We've gone from herd immunity to herd stupidity. We listen to TVs. We listen to pretty people say please. But this media virus is a curable disease. I need a vaccine, yeah. You're hot, but you're a problem. I need a vaccine for you. You're hot, but you're a problem. over the hill. Swallow this pill. All aboard with the great American stupid. All these years of heartache, a generation of fear.
You've just got to accept it. Your Game Boy is gone. It's at the bottom of the ocean. Hello, listen, lady.
And I really hate to think that this is good as it gets. Swearing at myself like I'm a fucking Tourette's. Oh no. And I really hate to think that there was something to change. And I'm really super sorry that I'm going insane. Don't mean to bother, I don't mean to complain. Oh no. If you change your mind, I might change in time. Who knows what you'll find if I do what I like. If you change your mind, change in time. Who knows what you'll find if I do what I like.
Rain It Down, the name of that one. It's Listen Lady right here on the Tony Jones Show. Just an example of some of the great music pouring into our humble studios here. And, of course, it is Double Shot Week, so before that you heard Listen Lady, Little Mouse. And then last time we chatted, I brought you Into Two from Desk, some new music here on the Tony Jones Show. We went into You're Hot, But You're a Problem, and then after that, The Great American Stupid. You are tuned into the Tony Jones Show. George Garner is here. DJ Psycho Eddie is here. Yes, very importantly, I have some fried dough news for you because on July 24th, we'll be celebrating National Doughboy Day down at the Rocky Point Clam Shack, which, you know, I wanted to, I think, George, you may have been there or en route. I wanted to let you all know about the time that a doughboy almost took my life. So
now, this wasn't at the Big E, right?
This was actually at the Washington County Fair.
Yes, I think. Yeah, I mean, we were supposed to meet and hang around that day, if I remember correctly, right?
So for our big national audience, you might not know what a doughboy is, and when I tell you what a doughboy is, you're probably going to be absolutely freaking disgusted. You know, even I was reading up on doughboys because and I had read somewhere that in some states people actually have doughboys for breakfast, and even that grossed me out a little. You know, but a doughboy is they just take a piece of risen dough yeast, a piece of dough, and they throw it in the deep fryer,
basically,
and then they flip it over, and yes, you eat that.
Well, no, there's another step. You take it out of the deep fryer with tongs, and then you dust it with either sugar.
Usually, yeah, sugar.
Brown sugar.
Some people use like a jelly, almost like a donut topping on it.
Cinnamon.
Yeah.
Or I know now, Ed, you could probably speak to this a little bit.
What are you trying to say?
Poetic about
back in
violated arts.
Well, I'm talking about though. As far as the toppings, we're talking about back in the day. I mean, I came from an Italian background.
It depends on where you're from. Being the Italian background, you probably had your first one at a festival,
right?
And
St. Rocco's Church.
St. Rocco's. Yep. My first one was the Holy Ghost up Federal Hill.
Yeah.
St. Joseph's.
Oh
Feast.
yeah, that's a feast.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Anyways, I'll digress on that part. Usually the toppings will be either a powdered sugar, granulated sugar, or regular table sugar with a little bit of cinnamon mixed in. And then you can go as exotic as you want. I've actually...
Well, the first one that I came across that they handed me, and I was very baffled, was red gravy, tomato gravy.
Yeah.
And they handed me this thing, and they said...
Think of it as a fried pizza, because basically what they're using is a pizza dough.
Right. Well, this is what confused me as a 5-year-old or whatever it was, is I looked at this thing, and it was it looked like a distorted pizza in shape. Yeah. It had red sauce spread on it.
Yeah.
It was supposed it was supposed to be a pizza, but it wasn't. I still remember my reaction all these years later to looking at this thing. That, speaking of mutants, I wouldn't have thought of it in those terms, but yeah, I mean, I looked at it as a mutant pizza. It shook me up.
Well,
it puzzled me.
It's fusion cooking. See, a lot of festivals go into the fusion cooking where they'll. One of the big ones, the guy who started off the fried frog legs, he has deep fried barbecue ribs. So he merges one thing that's not so great with you, and something else,
it's
deep
even
fried,
worse.
breaded and fried.
Right.
And he does that Franken dessert or Franken food, where it's just so horrible for you, it's got to taste good.
Right.
And also, for anybody who doesn't know, the feasts and the county fairs and the festivals around here are very well attended. So they're going for quantity, not necessarily quality when they pass those things out.
Yeah, you can around here, those feasts and festivals are as well attended as our local Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah. So that's exactly what happened. I was handed my fried dough, my doughboy with no toppings on it, and I kind of looked at it, and the miserable carny pointed to a table off in the distance.
All right, now let's take a second, Tony, and describe this table.
This table was covered, and when I say covered, all over the table, all over the floor, with just every different kind of sugar and powder you could think of. So it had the fine powder, it had the cinnamon sugar, it had regular granulated sugar.
And the bees.
And of course, bees just having their own festival.
Right, so basically you have to dodge yellow jackets, honeybees, and bumblebees.
And every other fat kid with their doughboy.
Right, so basically you're dodging fat kids and dangerous insects, for the privilege of eating this thing that is going to shorten your life by about 40 years.
So you go over this table, you apply your own toppings, and of course, I covered it in cinnamon sugar. I covered it in regular sugar, granulated sugar, and then of course my piece de resistance on top was the powdered sugar. And I mean, I just covered this thing with powdered sugar. I had it all over my face. It was all over my shirt. God forbid if I would have gotten pulled over on the way home. They would have thought I was coming back from a Motley Crue concert. So I get my Doughboy all set up, and I'm ready to take my first bite. And as I go to enjoy my Doughboy, take my first bite, I breathe in. And what I breathe in is about 3 inches of powdered sugar. And I swear to God, it just closed my whole system down. I couldn't breathe. My nose was running. My eyes were all watery. I mean, I couldn't breathe to the point where I was considering medical attention. It's, people do this cinnamon challenge online where they try to down a tablespoon of cinnamon, and people have actually died doing it. And that was similar to what happened to me with the powdered sugar. I just gulped it all in. I could feel it in the capillaries of my lungs. I almost went down for the count. Again, I was thinking all the stupid stuff I've done over my lifetime, and it's a Doughboy that takes me out.
I know it. I'm not sure if that would be a mark of honor or not.
I mean, at the county fair, people wouldn't even know. I mean, they wouldn't even pick you up off the floor until the fair was over. Probably like the following Monday when they were cleaning up. Oh, there's a dead fat guy over here. I'll put him in the pile with the other dead fat guys.
No. I don't know if that was that traumatic of an experience for you where you remember the detail, or if it was just last year where it happened. Because there was an incredible amount of detail on this. So was this a childhood trauma?
It wasn't a childhood trauma, but I was definitely like in my 20s, old enough to know better, Don't get greedy on the powdered sugar. I probably could have had a lawsuit.
Yeah, no, I tend to avoid the powdered sugar. I just go usually with either or. I do either or. I either do the sugar or I do the cinnamon.
I had to be greedy, so you all learned something today. Don't be greedy.
Well, what I learned recently, and this was not even as a 20-year-old, this was as a slightly older, genuine adult, is hamburgers. There's a limit to what you can put on a hamburger and still have it be digestible.
Well, yes and no.
Yeah,
the problem comes into tectonic shift. If you
or taco neck syndrome.
well, exactly.
I think we touched on this before, but I'm happy to debate it again.
The more stuff you put on top of that hamburger, the more likely it is for the layers that you put on to shift and basically disintegrate in your hand.
Go everywhere.
Right. The hamburger that happened to my girlfriend recently. The sandwich literally
falls right apart.
It fell completely apart. She was holding something that looked like an M80 went off in the middle of it.
Oh yeah.
I got to say, I felt like a complete weenie a few months back when I went to Casey's Classic Burger Bar and I had to finish my burger with a fork and a knife.
Sometimes there's no way around it.
I was insulted. I felt horrible.
Well, I think
and I felt horrible driving home.
Well, I don't know. Let me console you a little bit by saying that. Maybe, just maybe, this is only a theory I've developed right this second. Maybe when you put beyond a certain number of things on a burger, it ceases to be a genuine hamburger.
Ooh, that's true.
Or maybe just a meal in a bun.
It's more of a grinder.
Yeah,
well, if you look at the open-faced turkey sandwich,
or a hoagie.
It's the same concept.
Yeah.
You're not really going to pick up a sandwich loaded with gravy, boiling hot turkey, and whatever else they're putting in it. Because if you try to fold that sucker and put it to your mouth,
melt your face off.
You will have facial
incredible
burning
melting
from
man.
that hot gravy and stuffing, whatever else is falling out of it.
Yeah, I'm thinking
you have to eat most of it with the fork and knife. So,
yeah, I'm thinking that maybe the hamburger evolved into another food group at the moment they put the onion rings and the jalapeno peppers on at the same time.
But have you had one with those on it? It's excellent.
What do you think it was that I was eating when I
Put
said
you
I
over
went?
the edge? Well, now that we're all starving, we'll go back to the music here on the Tony Jones Show. Double Shot Week continues with the unfortunately now defunct The October Accord. Yes, you know you're getting old when you see a band. You remember when they were a new band. You remember when they were a good band, and you remember when they were a defunct band.
Nah, I don't know. These days bands go defunct pretty quick.
That's true. There's quite a lot of defunking going on. But we're going to hear, too, from the October Accord up next. Here's On My Own right here on The Tony Jones Show.
Actually, I think
so close, we used to be so strong, but then we said goodbye. Where did I go wrong? No one to turn to, no one help me. Don't know where I belong, can't stay here anymore. Just get me out of here, 'cause I'm all on my own. It's time to take me. I feel that I can't breathe. I need a place to go, 'cause I'm all on my own. We used to be just fine. I had to cross the line. I feel so alone without you. Come back to me. Don't know where I belong. Can't stay here anymore. Just get me out of here, 'cause I'm all on my own. It's time to take me. I feel that I can't breathe. I need a place to go, 'cause I'm all on my own. Shallow minds and lips, never beating from the start. Still taking shots from yesterday, trying to make up for the games we played. Drowning in this just like a flood. Fills my lungs, I'm giving up. You keep telling me that I'll be just fine, but this shit happens all the time. Finally seeing what's in front of me. No more hiding from it. I can stand to help me sing this. Totally had to fast this, but it's higher than the rest. And I will do my best to keep my head above it. Was it time I thought that I would look back on these days? Now when I do, it's in disgust. I'll tell myself it's just a phase.
I left my home for this and you took it away. Don't think you'll be missed. I wish that you'd stay. Locked doors, no escaping now. I'm gasping for air. Don't think for a second that I still care about you.
Finally seeing what's in front of me. No more hiding from this. I can stand to help me sing this.
Dark and Sinister Man Have It Thee, a little 30 Silver right here on the Tony Jones Show. Before that, we heard Goat from 30 Silver, as it is Double Shot Week. The wonder that is the internet tells me that 30 Silver is working on some new material recorded by our own Dave Sage, so I'm looking forward to hearing that, and hopefully it passes by the studio. Maybe we can have him in once again to talk about it. Before that, we went into two from the unfortunately now defunct The October Accord, On My Own, the name of the first one, and then after that we heard The Flood. Last week we set up shop at the Providence Flea Market, and next week we'll set up shop at the 2016 Ocean State Paracon with our good friend Chuckles the Clown, of course, Keith and Sandra Johnson and Carl Johnson, good friends of the show. It's going to be up at Harrisville Theater, Harrisville, Rhode Island, George, not too far from your new neck of the woods.
I know it, right across the border.
You know, I'm noticing that, you know, like more and more cool. I mean, it seems like, and maybe it's just because I was there at the time, but it seemed like as a kid there was ever anything cool going on in the suburbs. You had to physically transport yourself to the city.
You did. I mean, I spent a fortune as a teenager on bus fare to get from the suburbs to downtown Providence.
I mean, I remember getting my license and finally being able to kind of go out on my own, and the first place I went was Thayer Street in Providence.
Right.
Because I knew that's where all the punks of the time hung out. But it seems like more and more of these neat things are popping up in the suburbs.
It's self-defense.
Everybody's rocking the suburbs.
You have to.
And, you know,
I mean, literally. I mean, yeah, when I grew up in the suburbs, it's like literally all we had to do was stand around behind the Extra Mart.
Yep.
And
I mean, I can remember too, it still happens today, but when a couple of the local bands would get together and rent out the local VFW hall, the local AM vents, I mean, talk about a party. Everybody in town came. Everybody.
Yes, that was an event.
We're unfortunately starting to run out of time, so I want to try to get to one more track before we wrap things up here. They are one of our favorites here on the Tony Jones Show. I speak, of course, of the Evil Streaks. This track, The Cursed. The Curse right here on the Tony Jones Show. A little bit from one of our favorites around these parts. You just heard from the Evil Streaks. And actually, we'll go out with one more tune from the Evil Streaks as we say goodbye. George Garner, thank you as always.
My pleasure.
DJ Psycho Eddie, thank you as always.
Thank you.
Facebook.com/Tony Jones Show. On the almighty Twitter at Tony Jones in RI. Be sure to go to TonyJones.org. Go to RIFreeRadio.org for all your webutainment needs. We have podcasts. We have live streaming. We have blogs from our one and only George Garner, among our great cast of writers who are willing to work for free.
It's not free. There are unseen benefits.
We're going to get out of here now with one more from the Evil Streaks. Here's Pumpkin Carving Party right here on the Tony Jones Show. Bye, everybody. Bye.
Come on and grab a knife and follow me. We're gonna celebrate Halloween. Got the pumpkin carving party tonight with the demons. Well, a call from hell. Looks like the way. And all the damn souls have come out to play. There's a pumpkin carving party tonight to take evil away. Ugly faces, carving skin. Every more help won't let me in. Jack-o'-lanterns are glowing bright. There's a pumpkin carving party tonight. Now we'll gather around for the feast of the dead. It's time to reflect back and look ahead. There's a pumpkin carving party tonight when the dead are not dead. Ugly faces, carving skin, and the more help won't let